Good afternoon and welcome to the July 24th, 2024 City Council work session. Thank you for joining us in this virtual meeting format. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. Thank you again for joining us. And with that, I call this July 24, 2024 City Council work session to order. And I will turn it over to the city manager for our first item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I referenced this work session during my evaluation on Monday. The main topic today is really the first annual report on the strategic plan and progress we've made towards those goals. There's a lot there. Jason's going to walk us through a presentation, and I just wanted to note before we start that we don't have all the content matter experts here today, not even all of the execs. So we'll be taking good notes about any follow-up questions we might have to follow. I know you have sometimes referred to those as the words of death or whatever when we say we'll have to get back to you, because we like to be able to answer on the fly. We may not be able to do that completely. And then when we wrap up with that, I'm going to give you some kind of headlines about what's going to happen in the fall as part of my update. So I'll turn it over to you, Jason. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Let me get my screen share set up here. All right, how's that looking? Are you seeing slides? Great. All right. Thanks again, Sarah. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jason Dedrick in the City Manager's Office, and I'm here today to provide you with the first annual report on our 2023-2026 strategic plan. There's a lot here. There's a lot that the organization has been up to in the past year, and so the report that you have in your packet is really robust. Really just going to give you kind of an overview of our strategic plan, hit some of the high points in the annual report, and then answer any questions that you have. So just a reminder about how the strategic plan itself was developed. It really began with our community survey, our first in quite some time, that occurred in the summer of 2022. This gave us a sense of what was on the community's mind and what their priorities were. This helped inform a strategic planning retreat that occurred in the fall of that year, 2022, and several of you were able to be there and be a part of talking about how we take that information from the community and from our staff and from you as a council and turn that into a strategic plan. And so coming out of that retreat, there were really the groundwork for what became the 4 focus areas of the plan. Through the winter and into the spring, staff continued work to develop strategic goals associated with those focus areas and other supporting actions. And then it culminated with completion of the plan, which staff presented to you about this time almost exactly last year. And so that's just kind of a quick overview of how the plan was developed. As a reminder, the plan sort of sits just below kind of your council vision, values, goals. And here are those goals and outcomes that you identified and refreshed back in 2021. And here's how the strategic plan sort of overlays with those. So all the areas that are shaded in a color that codes with one of our 4 key focus areas are areas of your goals and outcomes that the strategic plan addresses. And so this helps to show that there's overlap there, and what we're doing is helping to accomplish your goals. But what this also shows is that our strategic plan just covers a certain set of things we're doing as an organization. It doesn't cover everything that we're doing. And that's probably a hallmark of a good plan. You want to have things that are your strategic focus, that are the things the community have said are really important. So we continue to do work on lots of things that aren't actually reflected in the annual report or the strategic plan. So the plan is structured again with those 4 key focus areas. Spread across those are 15 strategic goals and then 44 high impact actions that are really the things that we feel will move the dial on those strategic goals if we're able to make progress on those. Looking at those 4 key focus areas, just sort of a quick recap of these. Top left there is urgent community needs. These are many of the items that surfaced from the community survey. These include housing, homelessness, downtown, sense of community safety, as well as community resilience. So the things that are top of mind for our community. Bottom left there is culture of belonging. This is a little bit more about how we do our work as an organization, really doing it in a way that creates a community where everyone feels included and feels though they belong. Top right, our third key focus area is communication and outreach. This isn't just about us talking with the community about the work that we're doing, but also fully engaging with the community, having them be able to participate in the work that we're doing and provide feedback on how we're doing that work. And then bottom right there is one of the four key focus areas that's more internally focused. This one's a little more about our staff, about how we do the work that we do, and about our long-term financial situation. And so taking care of our organization and our staff helps us to be able to go out and do the other things in the strategic plan. And these four key focus areas aren't silos. They aren't separate from each other. We feel that's another hallmark of a good plan. They are actually integrated and there is overlap. So as we're going out into the community, doing the things that will address urgent community needs, we're likely doing things that at the same time are also promoting a culture of belonging in our community. So in terms of what happened after July of last year, there was additional work to really start building out the plan and bringing it forward to the rest of the organization. And one of the key things in doing that was individual action planning efforts by department, where staff in each department identified the things that they're doing that are supporting the goals of the strategic plan. It also has meant working to streamline our data collection as an organization. We already are and have been for many years collecting a lot of data as an organization. However, developing methods and tools to better streamline that, bring more consistency to our data collection, will help us to report on performance in the future. And to that end, staff have also developed performance measures that will help not only to manage individual programs and to make sure that they're producing the outcomes that we want them to, but also allow us to report on progress to you as a council, as well as to the community on not only our strategic plan, but everything that we're doing as an organization. So returning back to that format of the plan, we've got the focus areas, the goals, and the high impact actions. Staff work since the plan was created has identified an additional more than 300 actions sort of at a lower level that are supporting the plan, and over 700 potential performance measures that staff in many cases will begin tracking to be able to report our progress. The annual report is structured very much around the strategic goals. So what you have in your packet really is essentially a two-pager on each of the strategic goals. In some cases, a few goals have been lumped together. And then this report is focused on reporting progress on those 44 high impact actions. So in a little more of a narrative format, what are the things the organization has been doing to advance those high impact actions? Future iterations of the annual report will likely move a little more towards data and performance towards the strategic goals. So kind of a high level summary of the report. It's sort of hard to say here are the things we've accomplished when there's so much that we've been doing. But in looking at those 44 high impact actions, nearly all of them are in progress. Many of them, if not all of them, are on track to be completed by the time that we conclude with this plan, and a few are actually already complete. Another key takeaway is how much all departments, everyone across the organization, are contributing towards the strategic goals. So when we have something like increased sense of safety, that doesn't just mean police and fire. It's actually every department and programs spread across the organization are leaning into what it means to do their work in a way that's promoting a sense of safety in the community. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the other key takeaways is that we continue to sustain our efforts on things that aren't emphasized in the strategic plan. So this next section of the presentation will give you just sort of key highlights on each of those strategic goals. So for each of these slides, you'll see the key focus area there in the top left. This one's urgent community needs. You'll see the goal statement from the plan. In this case, it's increased sense of safety. And then on each of these, we'll just bring forward one key piece of relevant data that'll help you sort of help set the context for that goal. So in this case, around sense of safety, when we asked community survey respondents a couple of years ago, they could say anything they wanted, or I'm sorry, this question was, we provided them a list of attributes in the community and said, which are most important to you? And the number one attribute was sense of personal safety. So this is really important for our community members. So in terms of key highlights, utilizing community safety payroll tax funds, there's been important work happening to work with at-risk youth, and empower those youth so that they can get on the right track with their lives and make sure they're doing that in a way that's going to be healthy for their life going forward. So that's been important work. When we think about safety, one of the other things that's mentioned as part of that goal statement is really enlivening spaces and activating our spaces in the community. So we have branded signature downtown events that our cultural services team has been producing that have attracted over 9,000 community members to those events downtown, activating spaces, making them feel safer and a place where everyone belongs, and also helping to sort of boost the economy downtown and those businesses that are located downtown. You've recently received updates on important governance work related to Eugene Springfield Fire. There are several pathways or options there, but all of them are about providing efficient and effective services and delivering a sense of safety to our community. And then finally, in the past year, the Community Safety Payroll Tax has funded 5 new community service officer positions that have been filled in the last 12 months. And this is part of our alternative response efforts as an organization. Moving to the next goal, which is related to climate action and community resilience. Much of this work is centered around our Climate Action Plan 2.0. And so one of our key measures here or data points is that 61% of the actions in the Climate Action Plan have actually already been completed. So as I mentioned, that implementation of the plan has been important work over the last 12 months and will continue to be an important part of this goal. In addition, one of the really interesting things we've been doing is creating a very detailed inventory of street trees and other trees in the community. This was super important work during the ice storm to be able to have that inventory to address issues as they came up. But what it's also helped us understand is where we have trees and where we have shade in our community and where we don't. And that's allowed us to target plantings in the last 12 months to occur in areas that didn't have as much tree cover, and really bringing an equity lens to that. Even helps with sort of our local business community, because research has shown that businesses in areas with more tree canopy actually do better than those without tree canopy. So added benefits to that as well. And then finally, important work in the last year around wildfire planning and fuels management happening with Eugene Springfield Fire at that wildland urban interface in our community. This continues to be an issue that will be important going forward. And so we look to maintain that progress. Our next goal here is around mitigating the impacts of homelessness on both unhoused individuals and the community. Key data point here, in an open-ended way, when we asked community members what their top issue was, they said that homelessness was their #1 issue. So key efforts here, the city has led a new consortium of shelter providers in the community and in the region. This really helps to bring all of those partners together to really bring efficiency to that work and make sure that everyone's kind of pulling in the same direction around our shelter efforts. Adding to that regional work has been the city's participation in key boards and commissions like the Poverty and Homelessness Board and the Human Services Commission, in recognition that the city is not the only player here as it relates to homelessness, but part of a larger regional effort. In the last year, the city created a public spaces team and also brought out a new incident commander for that team. This brings an incident command type of response that we would use for things like an ice storm or COVID to our efforts to respond to calls for service, particularly related to homelessness in our public spaces. And so this has helped to provide not only a better interface for community members when they're submitting requests for service, but really bringing efficiency across our organization, bringing staff together, again, kind of pulling in one direction. And then finally, our community court received a $600,000 federal grant to provide supportive services to unhoused individuals. Our next goal is around stabilizing the cost of housing. After homelessness, this was the #2 issue that community members felt we needed to make improvement on to improve quality of life in our community. Key efforts here, you recently received an update in a joint planning commission meeting back in May on the Urban Growth Strategies project. This was initiated in the past year, really serves as an umbrella for multiple efforts about how we grow the future of our community and how we provide land for jobs and housing. You also have been a part of really important work related to renter protections. Of course, the cost of housing for home ownership is important, but stabilizing prices for renters is also essential. And then in this last legislative session, the city received a large amount of funding, I believe it was $6 million for infrastructure extension out in the West 11th and Crow Road area. So in order to stabilize the cost of housing, one of the things we need is new housing. And one of the barriers to that has been infrastructure in certain areas of the community. So this will help with that. Our next goal is around downtown, increasing vibrancy, economic vitality, and livability. We have been able to secure some new data that has helped show that downtown visits to downtown have gotten back to 95% of pre-pandemic levels. So we know that downtowns across the country have struggled with activity. Ours now is returning almost to where it was before COVID. So that gives us a great place to launch from in the coming years to really continue to bring activity downtown. Other efforts downtown include bringing on in the last year a new downtown incident commander, again, bringing that sort of efficient, effective incident command structure approach to our efforts downtown, really focusing on public safety and cleanliness. Our community safety payroll tax provided funding to secure a qualified mental health professional embedded with our safety officers downtown, bringing those mental health services to people that need it right then and there on the spot. And then finally, you've also received updates recently on efforts to incentivize housing downtown. This is really a keystone effort. The more folks that we have living downtown, the more pedestrian traffic that generates, the more business activity. So bringing that additional housing to downtown is a really key part of this goal. The next two goals in this focus area are related to local businesses and increasing wages and creating new jobs. So kind of our efforts around economic development. Key data point here that I'm sure you're all familiar with is that our average wages here in Lane County and in Eugene continue to lag behind the state as a whole. So that is one of the primary focuses of this goal is to increase those wages and create new jobs. Important efforts here include a revamping of our business liaison position in the last year. This position is now a sort of one-stop shop for our business owners in the community when they have anything that they want to communicate with the city about or a service that they need. They can reach out to our business liaison. They can quickly connect that individual with the portion of the organization that can best meet their need. That position was also instrumental in staffing the mayor's Blue Ribbon panel on economic development, which you also recently received an update on. Many of the recommendations that were included in that report will be addressed by staff in an implementation plan. And the things that come out of that are likely to be things that we will use to advance our efforts towards these goals. Finally, the city has also channeled some community development block grant funds into micro enterprise job training, really to helping make sure that we're equipping employees for the positions we have, community members for those jobs that we have and the jobs that we will have in the future. Moving forward to our second key focus area, culture of belonging. There are two goals here. One is better understanding community belonging, and the other is strengthening relationships with the whole community. Back in 22, in the community survey, we asked folks how they were feeling in terms of where they felt like they belonged, if they felt like Eugene and their neighborhood was a place they belonged. You can see that community members felt a little more sense of belonging in their neighborhood than the community as a whole, which is not surprising. But these are numbers that we will hope to see go up over time as we really move forward on our belonging efforts. So one of the key actions here has been a recent recreation program survey of both users of recreation programs, but also community members that aren't using those services to better understand what barriers there are to people engaging in those services. We can understand those barriers, we can help to reduce them and make sure that our recreation programs are ones that all community members can access. This could be a pilot for similar things we could do across other programs in the city as well. Our work around intergovernmental tribal relations continues. This has meant bringing both resources to staff as well as formally consulting with those tribes on important city projects such as City Hall. And then finally, our cultural services team has shifted some of their programming. Rather than utilizing funding to actually produce events, they are now granting those funds to community groups to produce events, making sure that these are really community-driven activities that are promoting a sense of belonging. Our third key focus area relates to communication and outreach. There are three goals here. improving community awareness, engaging with a broader cross-section of the community, and increasing confidence in council and staff. And so one of our key data points here is that since we launched the city newsroom a few months ago, we've already produced over 105 articles there. So we're trying to get the word out to the community on all the great work that our staff are doing. So mention that city newsroom. This is really an important way to tell those stories, to inform the community when the media landscape has really changed. And now it really needs to be the city kind of getting those stories out there. We also have been working really hard to meet and exceed federal web accessibility guidelines. Many of our community members are accessing information on the web. And so making sure that information is accessible to all community members is really important. The city received over 6,000 public records requests last year, and recently have launched a new software portal program, an easier way for community members to submit those public records requests so that their experience of submitting it and tracking it is better. And it also makes things more efficient on the back end for staff as we process those requests. And then finally, we'll be launching this summer a community engagement and communication survey. To be able to better engage with our community, we need to better understand how they would like to receive information, how they would like to be engaged on city efforts. And so this will help inform that. And then our final key focus area is organizational well-being. 3 goals here. One is around taking care of one of our most important resources, our staff. So promoting their engagement, well-being, and belonging. Key measure here, just in the last month, we were actually recognized as the number 6th healthiest employer in our size class in the state. So I think one of our goals might be to continue moving up that list as we move forward on these efforts. One of these key things to draw attention to has been our continued belonging trainings. Since inception of those trainings, we've trained over 2,500 staff. So staff that are here and also no longer with the organization, but really helping to bring an understanding of our community's history, so that we can feel a greater sense of belonging with our own staff teams, but then also be able to engage with our community members effectively as well. Our Equity and Community Engagement Office recently began a new network of staff from around the organization who surface, propose, and review projects that will really help to bring more consistency to our engagement and equity work across the organization as the community experiences it. And then finally, earlier this year, we had our first Staff Safety Summit. Over 200 staff, both in person and virtually, were able to get some great training on really practical safety skills. These will help our staff feel safer, our teams feel safer, but then also our community as well, because now more of our staff are equipped to help with safety issues. Our second goal here is around improving our processes as an organization, being more efficient, and meeting our strategic priorities. This is really work that our whole organization is doing. It's very much related to the fact that the number of general fund FTE that we have as an organization, full-time employees, has been going down at the same time that our population has been going up. So what that means is we need to find ways to be more efficient and do as much as we can with the staff resource that we have. And so the strategic plan is part of that, making sure that we know where we want to go as an organization and that we're directing our efforts efficiently towards those things. And as was mentioned earlier, this is our whole organization really embedding this strategic planning approach into everything that they do. Again, the entire organization working on performance measures that I talked about earlier to really be able to collect and report on the work that we're doing to you and to the community. And then really making sure that as we collect more data, we're doing it in a way that is secure, that's efficient, and that we can report on as easily as possible. And our final strategic goal is related to our budget, making sure that it's sustainable and that we can do the things that we want to commit to strategically as an organization. When we asked community members how they felt about the value that they received for their city tax dollars, 31% said they felt that the value was good or excellent. So I think one of our hopes would be that we could increase that number over time with our efforts. So you've been involved and updated on work of the revenue team, which was really about, again, trying to determine new sources of revenue for the city. And you have also spent time getting further updates on a couple of very specific items related to stormwater fee changes, as well as exploring a fire service fee. So aside from sort of the practical progress on the strategic plan, there have been other impacts as well from this plan. One is that it's provided a really strong foundation for our legislative efforts to be able to, at the state or federal level, be able to advocate in a way where we can point to a strategic plan that was community driven and use that as our foundation has really been helpful. It also has provided a great framework for our city newsroom stories, tying those stories in a cohesive way back to our strategic plan so the community can see how our progress and what we're doing relates to our strategic priorities. We've also created stronger connections to plans that were already existing in the organization, like the Climate Action Plan 2.0, the Housing Implementation Pipeline, and our efforts around the Community Safety Payroll Tax. Getting all of these plans talking to each other, pulling in the same direction has been another great outcome of the strategic plan. And then finally, I've talked a bit about data. It really allows us to leverage that data to inform our progress, see where we need to make changes, and then report on our performance to the community. So next steps from here, we plan to share that annual report with community as well as with our staff. We'll also be updating our website with the report. And then we'll be continuing to collect data on those measures so that we can report out as needed on our progress. And then in a little bit of the longer term, you will continue to receive quarterly updates, workshops on specific areas of the strategic plan. Staff will also be reaching out to other key community partners that also have strategic plans to look for ways that we can leverage those plans for collective community impact. We'll be embarking on another community survey to check back in with the community on some key issues. And then finally, we'll be looking to bring you the next annual report in September of next year. This will allow us to report on a full fiscal year. Again, hoping to move a little more towards demonstrating progress, really showing what our progress has been towards those strategic goals. And that is it. I'll kick it back to you, Mayor.
Wow. Thank you. That was a lot of information packed into a very discrete outline and a couple of really standout comments for me. I'm waiting for counselors to see if they have comments to make, but I was struck by, I was struck by 61% of the actions in the Climate Action Plan have been completed. That was, I don't think, a number any of us realized. So that was really, I was pretty impressed with 6,000 public records requests. My gosh, is that a record? I mean, have we ever gotten that many? Is it just keep going up every year? That was pretty incredible. And just one of your closing comments struck me as really powerful, which is that the strategic plan, two things, that the strategic plan has enabled us to sort of reference and coordinate all of those existing plans and sort of, because I think sometimes there's this worry that we have so many plans going on, do we know where we are? And the fact that the strategic plan has helped us see those and that it has given us a strong foundation for our legislative request, which is really, really, really good news. And I think we saw that. We were very successful in the legislature this year. So, okay, with that opening comment, I have Matt and then Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. Hope we're even more successful in this upcoming long session with the legislature. My boss has dispatched me to Canyonville today for a tribal government symposium. So it is a bit surreal on my lunch break to be coming to you from the business office of the casino. But driving down here, it was rather obvious to me the real danger we're in regards to wildfires throughout the region, throughout the state. And the wildfire planning and fuels management piece jumps out. Like the mayor, I'm enthusiastic about the 61% of the CAP plan. But Jason, thank you for the overview. I do want to hone in on the wildfire planning and fuels management piece. I also have a question about citizen engagement, not only through the newsroom, but a constituent reached out last week and said that the reporting piece was down. They reported a vehicle which had a violent dog, reportedly in the south part of Amazon, that was running at kids. and they couldn't report it. And so I wanted to know what they wanted to know, as do I, what the best way to report is when that system is down. Is there an app? Is there an in-person staff now that we're housed at City Hall? And then finally, I want to ask about the number 6. Well, I want to give the city kudos for being number 6 in our size class in the state. But getting to the top 5, I'm wondering, are we lumped in with for-profit? Are those not-for-profits? Are those government entities? And what, off the top of your head, what are a few action items that you see the city can do to move us into be a top 5 employer in the state in our size?
So several questions there. Mia Carriaga is here.
We'll start with the top 5 and let Mia address that.
Sure. So to answer the question about whether or not we're in the mix with private sector, we are. It's nonprofit, private sector, and agencies much like ours. And so we are all categorized by size, not by industry necessarily. And then in regard to moving up into the top 5, we were very pleased to come in at number 6, and several of us, Josh Bates and the ERC director and I, went up to accept the award, and we immediately started thinking about what we can do to move into that top 5. And so we'll be working over the coming months to figure out what some significant initiatives that we can pursue may look like so that we can bump into the top 5. We'll be working diligently to pursue that. But I don't have an answer yet. We're going to keep working on it.
Okay. Satisfied? Matt, have you got all your questions?
Well, with the top 5, yeah, there were several other pieces there that I was interested in.
That you asked, you weren't clear what you were asking on wildfire planning, and the second piece about the reporting system. We have lots of different places people can report. Which one of the ones were you saying was offline?
The one about, it was reportedly a vehicle camper with an aggressive dog, and the constituent was trying to report that, and the system was down, and I didn't. They didn't know. I didn't know how one could report that when that system is reportedly down. Yeah.
So I mean, the backup plan for all of this, and systems go down, like Friday systems were down all over the world, but people can always call the non-emergency line and at least make contact, especially if they think that the dog is a threat. And people can always call the city manager's office. We try to connect people to the right resources. So we do want people to feel like they always have an entry into us, but I think the non-emergency number is probably the best. And then I'll let you clarify your wildfire planning question.
Thanks. And before I get to the wildfire planning, I mentioned the city newsroom. And so I want to follow up about that piece too. Are residents opting in to the city newsroom? Or how do we communicate broadly with as many residents as possible? Do we have, it'd be an impossibility to have an email address for every constituent, I'm sure. But I also suspect that the neighborhood associations have a pretty vast, pretty deep email. Once someone communicates with us, is that deemed opting in? Is there a way? How do we communicate through the newsroom, manager?
I'm happy to answer some of those questions. Brooke Freed, Chief of Staff, City Manager's Office. So the city newsroom is available through the city's website, so it doesn't require any sort of subscription. We have been pushing out the stories through City of Eugene social media accounts. So we boost stories, we do paid advertising, and then we also include links to the city newsroom in all city newsletters. So anyone who's already pre-subscribed receives links to the newsroom page. It's also pushed out through all of our neighborhood association newsletters as well. So we are kind of taking a multifaceted approach to get the word out. And because this is the first year of the newsroom, we've been assessing analytics to see how things are going and what stories of a particular interest. As that survey comes in around community engagement, we'll understand a little bit better what the community wants to hear about, how they access information, and that will help us inform additional strategies for getting the word out to the community.
Thank you. Mayor, I don't know if I'm out of time or if I'm out of time. I'll take a second round. I can't see the
Yeah.
timer where I was
Okay.
at. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, Randy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Jason, for the report and work that staff put into this. I thought it was very enlightening in a number of areas. One question I have, well, first of all, statement is I frequently talk about our need to find better avenues of communication, and I really like what the city is doing right now with the newsroom. It's just a matter of now, how do we get out there? And I'm very interested in reaching people that, as you brought up, that don't traditionally fill out surveys. And how do we do this? And I don't have the answers, but it's something that I frequently, when I'm out and about, I ask people how they get their information, and it is so varied. I don't know how you come up with a cogent plan, but I still think it's something we need to try to work on. So that's a statement, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on how we reach the unreachable, so to speak?
I mean, Brooke mentioned the survey that we'll be doing. Obviously, that highlights the issue that we'll be surveying people to ask them how they want to receive information, and if it's folks that don't fill out surveys, but we're going to continue. I think when we're doing like booths or tabling, finding people that might not do a survey and continuing to ask about how people receive their information. But it really is, I think, trying to dial in, because as you mentioned, what we're probably going to find out is all the different ways that people receive their information, and then really trying to align our communications efforts with those different ways in a strategic way that now we can kind of with a strategic plan. So that's sort of an answer, non-answer, but I do think we're going to learn more from that survey and try to reach some folks that wouldn't typically fill out a city survey to see how they would like to receive information.
Great. I do hear a certain amount of cynicism, and part of that is I think all local government gets lumped in together. I frequently hear complaints that are about things the city isn't even involved in. And I don't know how we can push civics out there, but kind of an understanding of how the work and responsibilities are divided up might go a long way to helping with some of the cynicism I hear. Just a thought. And then I have a question regarding the 6,000 public records requests. I want to preface this by saying everybody has a right to request public records, and I respect that right. But I'm curious, of the 6,000 public records requests, are those generated by 6,000 different people, or is it 100 people generating 6,000 requests? I don't know what to do with that. It's more of a curiosity and an interest.
Hi, Counselor. Katie
Hi,
Lassala,
Katie.
your city recorder. I would say it's not 6,000 individuals. You do have folks who are repeat submitters, particularly in like the planning area and building. You're going to have folks who are working on multiple projects who come back and submit for different projects that they're working on. So I don't have an answer in terms of how many requests we have versus how many unique requesters. I think on the EPD side, you get a lot more unique requesters. They're looking for a specific incident. And then the rest of the city, I'd say it varies. Like in the CMO office, we get some frequent flyers, but it's not, I wouldn't say like 90% of our requests are by one individual or two individuals.
Okay.
It's a good variety.
Well, I'm certainly not looking to add to your workload, and that's not what I'm asking. I'm just trying to get a sense here, and that's about what I expected to hear. But and again, I don't even know what to do with that. It's just a curiosity of do we have a few people submitting a lot of requests or a lot of people submitting few requests? And I think you answered it the best you can without exhaustive research that nobody has time for. That's all I have at this point, but thank you again. Appreciate the work. I think it's important that we have and maintain a strategic plan, and that's going to help us move the ball down the field.
Mayor, can I just jump in on that? Because I think on the public records request, I think there's two sides to this equation, and I think the team has done a really good job of improving the system, getting a platform that's easier for the community and easier for us to manage. And the other side of it that we talk about with some frequency is how do we make more information already public so that folks don't even have to ask for it and they can just find it. And so that, relates to digitizing old things and helping some of our other databases be more transparent going forward. So I think that's something we're thinking about, but that's not what that record request identifies.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Jennifer and then Emily.
Thanks, Mayor. So first of all, I'll just say I have enjoyed this process that we've been working on the strategic plan since it started, and the way we've been able to involve the community and staff all across our organization. So just this entire experience has been really positive for me, and including today's presentation, Jason, which was also excellent. I really appreciate it. And I may have missed this, and you may have already said it, but when we're reporting out on our progress, I'm wondering if there's a way. I mean, oftentimes progress is like the things we've done right, the things that we've accomplished, checking the boxes. But I wonder if there's a way to capture challenges that we've had. Because I think that would be really helpful as we're, strategic plans tend to be living documents. And if we could kind of see those challenges as we go along, it might help inform, choices down the road. I don't know if that's already part of it or if there's a way to integrate that in somehow.
Thanks, Counselor. Yeah, I actually really like that idea. Being 1 year in, most things are getting a little bit of a start or more than a little bit of a start. I think next year in particular, as this next year unfolds, we're going to have a better sense of where we aren't seeing the progress in the way that we want or as quickly as we want. And so I love the idea of, the next time we're here, if not before, highlighting some of the key challenges. The sooner we know those, the sooner we can try to adjust, right? Because we may not have the right actions to get progress on the goals that we thought. And so, collecting data, looking at progress, we can be able to say, oh, we're not quite getting what we thought. Maybe we need to change our direction a little bit. And so I do like that. And I think you can expect that next year, if not before, we come back with not only our progress, but here are the places where there's some challenges, some headwinds.
Great. Well, that was a great answer. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't actually have any other questions. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you. Emily.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and the report was really accessible, and I liked the graphic design, so that always makes me happy. I'm not that comfortable with this whole process and kind of grumpy with all the pieces. So I'm really happy to say this is cool. I'm really impressed with how it all came together from our strategic planning and all the outreach and the staff work. To see it all come together in this amazing organized way is really impressive. And it's really reassuring and encouraging to see that we're really doing things. We're doing a lot of things, and to have them all brought together in the annual report. We never do enough. We never have enough, but we work really hard. And to see all of this, of what we're doing, what our plans are doing, is really encouraging. And that we now have a way to monitor, now that we've set up the goals and the ideas we have for working on them, the ones that are already progressing and the ones to come. I think it's a remarkable tool for us to see what we're doing next, where we're going wrong, where we want to do better. And that we are an organization, we are a city, and we're all a part of this. I think this document really puts that forward, and I like the way we've included staff and the whole organization and the whole city into our strategic goals. So spite of my grumpiness along the way. Thank you. Congratulations. And I'm really looking to see where this takes us. Good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that Matt wants a second round. Does anyone who hasn't had a first round want to chime in with any questions or comments? All right, Matt, take your second round.
Thanks, Mayor. I was trying to formulate a more specific inquiry around the wildfire planning and fuels management piece. And I think I'll just start with this and then maybe follow up individually or online. There are fires all around the county right now. And this is, as I check the Watch Duty app daily and at times hourly, monitoring the fires in the Oak Ridge area, and my heart goes out to families affected by the disaster, and my gratitude to the first responders who are on the ground. If I could just get a high level snapshot as to what the city's Eugene Springfield Fire's wildfire planning and fuels management team member or leader is kind of in their data, I recognize that that's probably part of a coordinated command piece, part of clearly a mitigation piece, and part of not dealing with what's happening on the ground as we speak. But if we could just get like an idea, not of the day to day, but and maybe it's checking in with Chief Caven and having like FaceTime with said wildfire planning and fuels management leadership. But what is that? What's it look like? How is our community safer with an investment in a wildfire planning and fuels management team?
So Chief Caven's not on the call right now, and he's really the best prepared to talk about that. We do have, as part of what I was about to update you in at the end of this, we're actually having him come back in the fall when you come back from break to actually give you an update on the wildfire season, what we've seen, what we're learning, what the work we're doing. So I think in the meantime, probably the best case is for him to either send a message or meet with you one-on-one, because we won't have time for a work session. So it is scheduled for September, and we can try to get you more information before that, but he's really the best suited to answer it.
That's great. I do. Thank you. I do have a one-on-one scheduled with the chief around the corner. So next week, and I see a former chief raising his hand. I suspect he'll have something to say as well. To that point about the community, Mayor, and I apologize. I cannot see the timer. So
you have 41 seconds. You have 39 seconds.
To the answer that was provided by 77% of our community members, there's the sense of personal safety. I sense that the Eugene Springfield community is safer. I just want to learn more about not the operations, but I want to learn more about the position, the short term and the long term, and how it has helped reduce fuel load, education, and not just the sense of safety, but the actual safety of our community, physical structures, and of course, the lives of our community members. And it's obviously, especially in the South Hills. Thanks, Mayor.
You hit it right on the money. Down to zero. Well done. Okay, Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, Chief Caven is the best to answer, but just quickly, I mean, it's based on a number of things. It's staffing, it's training, it's equipment, it's having those resources brought together. And then you take the prevention and mitigation piece, it's reducing fuel loads. I mean, you put out a fire basically by taking away the oxygen, cooling it, removing the fuel, or there's another one called interrupting the uninhibited chemical chain reaction, but that's chemicals, and that's different from this. This removing the fuels, though, is one of the biggest things we can do to make it safer. But you have to remember, you remove fuels 1 year, they grow back within a couple of years. So it needs to be an ongoing process. And there's a lot of catch-up work to do right now that's actually been in the works for many, many years now. We started fuel mitigation and reduction back in the 80s. And it's just become more important, especially as we push building further into the trees and into the hills. So that's kind of a quick answer. Chief Caven could go into more detail. But again, removing the fuel loads, having defensible spaces around structures that are also ignition sources is really vital to providing for the safety of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other council questions, I have one more, which is just an observation, which is the comment about the public spaces team and our response in extreme weather. And I just wanted to note that we just came through a heat dome experience 2 weeks ago, and my email box was not filled with complaints or frustration that people weren't being tended to or needs being met. So I have to assume that some of that is the public safety team, the things that we've learned in past experiences. I don't know if there are any other insights from that, but and of course it wasn't an air quality issue. We didn't have smoke, it was heat, but it seemed that the city's response, the county's response seemed to more or less have met the need. Is that a correct reading? What happened? I don't know who's positioned to respond to that question. So
Mayor Mia Carriaga, Central Services Director. We, knowing that forecast was coming, we were very proactive in our approach, and we immediately started working with area partners like Lane County so that we could stand up additional services for anyone who may need them because of the heat. So for example, the library really stepped up and offered the Bascom Tykson room as a low barrier place for people to seek cool areas. We distributed water in a number of areas. Our our public spaces team modified how they were working in those areas, knowing that people were going to be under additional hardship. So it was really, we've learned a lot over the last couple of years about how we can be most helpful to the community, given our role versus Lane County's, for example. And so we were just really proactive in our approach and getting information out.
Well, you have my appreciation, and that team has my appreciation, because it was really hot and we have really been hit hard with complaints and concerns and accusations in the past. And that didn't happen this time. So clearly that additional foresight and effort and coordination made a difference to people who are out there and had no good place to cool off. So thank you very much for that work. Yeah, Jennifer.
Sorry, I'll be quick. And you don't have to answer this today, but I'm curious to get some information about the changing of cultural services and how they're supporting folks rather than doing their own programming, and how that has been, like, what effects we've seen, positive or negative. You don't have to answer today, but if someone wants to just shoot me an email, I'd be interested to hear how that's working, like how it's going. So
I don't know if Josh has the information today. The grant we made to Pride was actually one of the things I mentioned on Monday night. That's an example of trying to get some of those funds out into the community. Josh, can you answer this, or would it be better for Colette to?
I think it would be best for us to follow up with you, Councilor Ye, because we do fund a number of different programs and we have dozens of other partnerships. So I think it would be best just to follow up offline. But to Sarah's point, Pride is one of those grants. Our Arts in the Park grants is one of those programs.
Well, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right. Well, I think, Jason, really deep appreciation for how you sort of collated all of this massive amount of information, and I feel it gives us a sort of a lot to hang our hats on, and And also I think it enables all of us elected officials who are out there in the community to really kind of think through those bullet points as we're wanting to talk to the community about where we are in our planning and how well we're doing. So I would just sort of appreciate how sort of discreet and memorable and accessible this is for us to use as we're talking to constituents. So thank you very, very much for all of it and all of the teams who have done this incredible amount of work in the past year. Just really incredible amount of work in all different realms. So very, 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 very proud of the city teams who've done this. And with that, I think we're ready to move on to the city manager's update.
Thanks, Mayor. So, the strategic plan has also helped us be able to focus and populate and strategize around your tentative agenda. And so today I mostly was going to use this time to give you a few key highlights of what's coming in the fall. When you come back on September 9th, that'll be your first meeting. It's Monday. I'm reaching out. I haven't had a chance to reach out to each of you, but I will talk to you over the next couple of days about some of the security things we'll be putting into place and potentially a drill when you first get back. But we are planning on coming back with two things, and I'm going to actually ask Mia to speak to it more fully. One is the Police Commission. They'll be coming with their update, their annual report and their work plan. But the other piece that's going to be really important this fall is working through how you fill a police auditor position. So with that, I'm going to let Mia talk about that because it will really be her and her team.
Thank you, Sarah. So the purpose of my visit today is just to give you a high-level overview of the path to fill the role of the police auditor. As you know, your current police auditor, Leah Pitcher, will be leaving the organization for another job, and her last day is September 13th. And so we'll need to work through a process with you to appoint someone on an interim basis and then work on a more full recruitment later. And so the plan is that I will work with council leadership over the break, and that will likely be over the next week or so. I know Councilor Keating won't be available the entire break, and we'll try to get that done early so that you all can actually have a break, to bring back options on September 9th for an interim appointment. And so I'll be working with council leadership to do that. Later in September, I believe September 23rd, the Employee Resource Center team will come back with more information and options as to how you may want to fill the role on a permanent basis. And so, we normally we'll gather your interest, but it likely will involve a more robust recruitment than will be required for the interim appointment. So that's the plan and path. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions from counselors about that? I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much for clarifying the next steps.
So a couple other things that you'll see as you come back in the fall. A lot of things that sort of carried over. So you've had a couple of public hearings, for example, on the downtown riverfront sign code. You've had some discussions about an accelerated MUFTI program. So some of those you'll see come back for action. Some you'll see come back for public hearings. A couple of big ones. I just mentioned the fire season. You had a work session poll approved for the IMRF project, the materials. Whatever, my brain is not working totally today. With Lane County, we're going to come back with that pretty soon, right after the break, because we know that's moving along. We're going to be talking about revenue. I think giving you a new financial update of where we're at, starting to introduce some of the fire fee concepts. Again, I'll be working with you as well, like during our one-on-ones about that. We're also coming back with a series of the mental health and substance abuse discussions and that workshop focus, and some other fun things, the urban forestry, vision and action plan. So there's a lot of stuff that you've been asking for that sometimes it just takes a little while to get staff capacity to do it. So I think your schedule, we don't always have at this time a schedule that already shows what you're doing your first meeting in September. So when you get your next tentative agenda, those things will be there. And any questions you have about that, happy to answer now or when we meet one-on-one.
Not seeing any hands raised with questions. All right. Well, actually, does that mean we are finished for the day? We have
And
done
an extra hour of break or half an hour break.
an extra half-hour break. So I just want to thank all of you on council for all the hard work you have done. It's always a long march to get from your spring break to get to your summer break. It's a lot of work and it's always high intensity, and that's true for staff also, all of the things that have to get done in that time frame. And you did it. And you know, we got through it all. I think we landed in good places on all of those decisions, and I'm really happy. And I hope that you all have some good downtime and enjoy what's best about Eugene and Oregon in the summertime or wherever else you're planning to go. And Matt, you have a comment?
I do, Mayor, and I mistakenly did not bring this up when you asked for at Monday night's meeting for points of interest or in council comments. We had a ribbon cutting last week to celebrate our brand new city hall, and we have now had at least 3 Monday night meetings at City Hall, and there's so much work that goes in on the back end to make those events happen. At the ribbon cutting, especially being somewhat out of the ordinary. So I want to thank not just my colleagues who were in attendance, the community members who were in attendance, mayor and manager. You always rise to the occasion, but the unsung heroes who make those events shine. I wanted to express my deep gratitude and appreciation to our City of Eugene staff.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I do want to acknowledge our team that puts together those council packets and then orchestrates these complicated meetings. And on Monday night, it was complicated and a little bit scary. And we had staff right kind of in the line of this very aggressive demonstration, and were competent, on top of it, cool and collected, did what they needed to do. So thank you all for that. And I guess a special shout out to Sarah McKinney. So for being really on it and really strong. So she deserves the Medal of Honor really for how capably she managed that. So, all right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful summer break. I look forward to seeing you here and there at the Pride Festival, among other places. And have a wonderful August, and we'll see you in September. And I have a wedding this weekend, so I'm off to be very celebratory. Okay, take care, everyone.